Fey Evolution Merchant Chapter 21, Evolving Back to Ancestry Line. The sharp rock bull was trembling as it endured, but even it couldn't withstand such immense pain. Lin Yuan felt a considerable pushing force against the hand that was touching the broken horn. Lin Yuan swayed a little, and the pair of horns on the sharp rock bull fell off. Immediately after, a new pair of horns grew out on its head. Lin Yuan placed his hand back on the little horns, before channeling his spirit qi at full force. When the sky was starting to turn dark, the sharp rock bull's horns were covered, and they only stopped growing when they reached over 1 foot in length. It took nearly 7 hours, but Lin Yuan finally healed the severely injured sharp rock bull. Suppose the severely injured sharp rock bull was worth 200,000 Federation dollars. In that case, the current healthy elite/epic sharp rock bull could be easily sold on the star web for 1.5 radiance dollars, or 1,500,000 Federation dollars. This was also why creation masters were so respected. Lin Yuan was still channeling spirit qi into the sharp rock bull as he could feel an obstacle in the dark. As long as he continued channeling his spirit qi, he would be able to smash the obstacle. This sharp rock bull would then undergo a qualitative change. Lin Yuan was ecstatic as this should be the obstacle-blocking elite phase from becoming bronze ones. Lin Yuan increased his spirit qi's release speed to smash the obstacle with full strength. Finally, half an hour later, the obstacle was pulverized to dust. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw the sharp rock bull, which was originally lying down, suddenly stand upright. Its body was emitting creaking and cracking sounds as its bones were shifting. In less than 2 minutes, the sharp rock bull's appearance changed drastically. Had it not been for Lin Yuan witnessing it, he probably wouldn't recognize the Fey in front of him as the sharp rock bull of just a few moments ago. Lin Yuan activated True Data to check on the sharp rock bull's situation. No, it shouldn't be called a sharp rock bull anymore. It should be called Sharp Iron Horn Bull. The sharp rock bull, which was originally 2 meters in length, had already transformed into a sharp iron horn bull that was nearly 3 meters in length. The sharp iron horn bull's greatest change wasn't in its size, but the horns on its head. The sharp rock bull actually had a small horn on its nose, but it was only 2.5 cm in size. Therefore, it had been useless. However, the sharp iron horn bull's nose horn was now 1 meter long. It no longer had its smooth curves, and it was razor-sharp with multiple angles. Each of the angles was sharp like a blade. The 2 horns on the head, which were originally around 30 centimeters in length, were now 1 meter long too. The horns weren't straight and were more like a bull's horns, curved and meant for charging. They were heavy and filled with power, as though they were made to penetrate the enemy. Lin Yuan was certain that this sharp rock bull's evolution into the sharp iron horn bull was in the ancestry line's direction, enhancing its physical capability. Lin Yuan had actually witnessed the process of an elite Fey evolving into a bronze one. He had witnessed the metamorphosis of life. While feeling the metamorphosis of life from where he stood, he felt his spirit getting enlightened. It was a kind of uplifting feeling that could only be felt when creating life. It was the same as seeking the legendary chapter of the book that contained the meaning of life. After the sharp rock bull evolved, there were 3 exclusive skills to choose from due to its epic quality. FreeWebNovel.com. Scaled Skin. The skin develops a layer of scaled armor-like skin that has a similar composition to the skin. Trudge. Stamina can be reserved when sprinting. Pain Absorption. When receiving damage, absorb a portion of the damage and turn it into vitality. After reading through the 3 exclusive skills, Lin Yuan fell deep in thought. Among the 3 skills, 2 of them were rather good. The sharp iron horn bull was a defense-type Fey, so Trudge was obviously useless. Scaled Skin was an exclusive skill that allowed the sharp iron horn bull's current iron-like skin to develop a layer of thicker scaled armor. The scaled armor would also have the same properties of the sharp iron horn bull's skin, enhancing its defensive capability. At the same time, when the sharp iron horn bull was charging, if the scaled armor scraped on the target, its sharp edges would also injure the enemy. The other exclusive skill, Pain Absorption, was rather interesting. When receiving damage, it allowed a portion of the damage to be absorbed and used to recover. It was something that an Iron Fool would wish for, a skill that was even more extreme and complementing. After a short conflict, Lin Yuan chose Pain Absorption. Pain Absorption could be effectively used with the skill Sacrifice. The scaled skin might produce an additional layer of skin armor, but if the enemy could slice open the sharp iron horn bull's original skin, then the scaled armor would naturally be sliced open too. Hence, after a quick comparison, Pain Absorption was definitely superior. When Lin Yuan chose the exclusive skill, Pain Absorption, the sharp iron horn bull's evolution was finally completed. The normal grade and elite grade learned skills would also undergo slight changes. Fey name, Sharp Iron Horn Bull. Fey species, Horn species/Bull species. Fey grade, Bronze, 1/10. Fey type, Metal. Fey quality, Normal. Abilities. Rock Horn, apply a layer of metal on the horns and enhance the nose horn's metallic properties. Disregard injuries and smash into the enemy with full strength. Sacrifice, when the contractor is injured, automatically split the damage with the contractor. Exclusive skill. Pain absorption, when receiving damage, absorb a portion of the damage and turn it into vitality. Lin Yuan couldn't be more satisfied with the Sharp Iron Horn Bull before him. However, the more Lin Yuan observed the Sharp Iron Horn Bull, the more he felt it was like a power offense-type Fey that had a defensive layer of skin. Be it the abilities or the exclusive skill, they were all very good combinations for the Sharp Iron Horn Bull. For it to be Chu Ci's first Fey, it was simply as fitting as it could be. But for a girl to contract a Sharp Iron Horn Bull, it was rather strange, just like the Beauty and the Beast. However, this Sharp Iron Horn Bull was already the best defense-type Fey that Lin Yuan could obtain with his current abilities. After evolving the Sharp Iron Horn Bull, Lin Yuan felt that the increase of spiritual power in his body was the same as evolving 30 pots of elite Esneas. Lin Yuan concluded that evolving high-grade Feys would allow his spiritual power to increase more. It was fortunate that the Sharp Rock Bull was an elite X-Fey. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for Lin Yuan to evolve it to bronze grade in such a short period. When looking at the dark blue and hazy sky, Lin Yuan immediately arranged for bronze air transportation with his mobile phone. While waiting for the avian Fey to arrive, Lin Yuan prepared dinner for Genius and Chimey. At the same time, he also fed the Sharp Iron Horn Bull with some Usnea vines. He then stored the bronze Sharp Iron Horn Bull in the bronze grade spirit storage box. Soon enough, a bronze avian Fey arrived at the alley. Lin Yuan grabbed onto the spirit storage box and bade farewell to Genius and Chimey, which had been chirping non-stop after waking up. He then boarded on the avian Fey. While riding the bronze black-winged wind falcon in the night, he flew toward Chu Ci's school. Fey Evolution Merchant Chapter 22, Moon Empress. 3 portions of hyssop sprouts, 1 portion of deep-sea ebony, and 1 portion of platinum beast's essence blood. A woman dressed in moonlight-colored long robes swayed a crystal bottle in her hand while giving instructions with her pleasant voice. An emerald-colored bird with 4 feathers, which were like vines and leaves, was flying around. It was using its beak to accurately take the portions and put them in the crystal bottle. Not far away from the woman in the moonlight robes were a man and a woman. The man had a dignified look, while the woman looked heroic. The two of them were using their spirit chi to conceal their presence as they were afraid they might disturb the woman that was adjusting the medicine concoction. Their body spirit chi was emitting a vague, mysterious, and runic aura. It indicated that the two of them were King-class experts that had comprehended the willpower runes from a certain mountain, river, ocean, or sky. However, the 2 King-class experts were looking at this woman with extreme respect. The woman in the moonlight robes was using her spirit chi to vibrate the concoction. The medicinal smell was flowing out of the bottle, and the refreshing plant fragrance was like the smell of grass being split open after a rain. It truly gladdened the heart. When the concoction was mixed with the 3 portions of hyssop sprouts that the vine bird brought, it emitted a fragrance as though a giant tree instantly grew out from the place where the grass had been sliced open. The giant tree started to get surrounded by greenery, forming a primitive forest. As the woman in the moonlight robes poured the dark red platinum beast's blood inside, the fragrance suddenly exploded with intense and horrifying prowess. It felt just like ferocious beasts prowling in the depths of the primitive forest and waiting to strike at the prey. The 2 King-class experts' foreheads were covered with perspiration as they felt rather nervous due to the prowling beast's threatening presence. The woman in the moonlight robes constantly injected her spiritual power into the crystal bottle. The spirit chi had stirred and fused the emerald-colored concoction and the dark red beast blood into an amber color, which was sparkling and limpid. After stirring for around 10 minutes, the woman stopped. She picked up the deep-sea ebony and smelled it as though she was trying to determine the deep-sea ebony's age. Subsequently, she used her spiritual power to crush the deep-sea ebony into dust and poured it into the amber fluid. As soon as the deep-sea ebony was mixed into the amber fluid, it turned dark green. The primitive forest that was originally prowling with beasts suddenly acted out a part of history that was over 2 million years ago, as there was heavy rain that would only appear during the Carnian period. The primitive forest was instantly flooded and turned into a deep sea. The beasts in the forest that were waiting to strike had all turned into swelling corpses. The two King-class experts first felt their legs getting tangled by layers of water plants, before their necks were also tangled. It felt like they were going to be sealed in this dark green, deep sea for eternity. At that moment, the woman in the moonlight robe started to stir the fluid with her spirit chi. Every time she moved, it would be like a reincarnation cycle. Those beasts in the sea that were already dead had suddenly revived, while those tangling water plants had also released their grip, turning back into the plants that lived between the reef. Light and darkness, new life and decay. Whenever the woman moved her hands, the two polar opposites would switch. Finally, the dark green medicinal fluid was stirred by the spiritual power and turned into an emerald green color with a sparkling luster. At the instant the fluid turned sparkling, the suffocating deep sea, the water plants, and the beasts vanished. There was only the sound and serenity of the falling sunset when a solitary duck was flying when the limpid autumn waters were the same color as the sky. At that moment, the two King-class experts took a deep breath and withdrew the spirit chi protecting their bodies. The dignified man quickly went over and asked, "Moon Empress, thank you for the hard work. I wonder if this concoction is completed?" The woman in the moonlight robes lifted her head and emitted an aura that was like the moon's splendor. "Summon your fae, Si Kong." The dignified middle-aged man responded by immediately summoning his fae, which was a giant tiger beast. The woman in the moonlight robe shook her wrist, and the emerald fluid turned into a streak of fragrance. It entered the giant tiger's body, through the nostrils. Subsequently, the giant tiger fae's body started cracking as though it was experiencing a new life. The woman in the moonlight robes nodded and said, "Its quality has evolved from epic to legend. As long as you fuse the willpower runes that you comprehended with the fae, it can evolve into the fantasy breed." Si Kong was overjoyed by the statement and quickly bowed. "Moon Empress, if you need my assistance in the future, just inform me. I will not cower and risk my life to complete your request." The woman in the moonlight robe shook her hand and said, "You don't have to risk your life. You already helped this Empress to find a pair of dragon beast eyes, consider this your reward." After hearing the Moon Empress reply, the dignified man quickly cupped his fist again and said, "Si Kong is willing to serve the Moon Empress with loyalty." At that moment, the giant tiger fae completed its evolution and quietly awakened. When it felt its changes, it let out an invigorated growl. All of a sudden, its voice was stuck in the throat. The tiger beast then lay down sullenly. A small rabbit on the table pulled a finger-sized carrot out of a jade flower pot. Some red crystal-like sand was also pulled out. The small rabbit looked at the sand with dislike before kicking the sand off the table and leisurely nibbling the carrot. The green vine bird that was preparing the ingredients earlier habitually and quickly picked up the red crystal sand grains on the ground and placed them back into the jade flower pot. The giant tiger fae had stopped growling because the little rabbit had taken a casual glance at it when it had been pulling the carrot. The Moon Empress carried the little rabbit and said to Si Kong, "The Creation Master exams have always been conducted rank by rank since it started. After each successful attempt at the promotion exams, Creation Masters will need to wait for 3 years before participating in the promotion exams. How can we pick out any Creation Masters with true talents like this?" Si Kong, inform the Creation Master Association that if anyone passes the Creation Master exam within 2 hours, they can choose to bypass the 3 lifestyle occupations promotion exams and immediately attempt for the Rank 2 Creation Master exam. Si Kong memorized the Moon Empress instructions before asking, "Moon Empress, what about the promotion exam for Rank 3 Creation Master? Can they also choose to directly promote after passing the Rank 2 exam? It is only allowed for promotion from Rank 1 to Rank 2. The Moon Empress picked up the crystal bottle again after speaking in preparation to concoct another medicinal fluid. She was hinting for them to leave. Si Kong stored the fae, whose quality had just evolved to legend, before bowing and quickly attending to the task requested by the Moon Empress. At that moment, the female King-class expert that was emitting a heroic aura finally spoke. "Moon Empress, do you feel that there haven't been enough outstanding young individuals among the Federation's Creation Masters during the past few years? Therefore, you wish to make a change?" The Moon Empress shook her head and said, "This is merely this Empress' personal matter. The Bamboo Monarch and the Chef Supreme have already taken in disciples. This Empress must not fall behind those 2 old things." The heroic lady was shocked by the reply. The Moon Empress is actually planning to accept a disciple. This is shocking news. As one of the Radiance Federation's 3 Rank 5 Creation Masters, becoming the Moon Empress disciple was the same as ascending to heaven. However, it was unknown which city the Moon Empress disciple would be from. If that disciple came from Redbud City, as the Redbud City governor, she would definitely receive plenty of rewards from the Moon Empress. Ling Xiao, Do you know that the Xiao region under your Redbud City has a new class 1-dimensional rift? The heroic lady immediately replied, Ling Xiao has already received the Redbud Guard's report. Does Moon Empress have any instructions? The heroic lady felt a little suspicious. Why would an influential person like the Moon Empress mention a mere class 1-dimensional rift? This empress heard that the dimensional rifts have been unstable lately. It is probably due to the arrival of the dimensional wave. During each dimensional wave, the dimensional rifts with alien insects are always the most dangerous. Your Redbud City has the most insect dimensional rifts. Send more guards to the insect dimensional rifts entrances to prevent them from threatening the lives of the nearby citizens during the dimensional wave. After receiving the Moon Empress instructions, Ling Xiao quickly replied, Moon Empress, you don't have to worry. As Redbud City's governor, as long as Ling Xiao is around, Ling Xiao shall be Redbud City's pillar. The Moon Empress nodded and said to Ling Xiao, Si Kong's task might need a period of time before it takes effect. Why don't you return to Redbud City and apply the new rules of the Creation Master exam for Red? Fey Evolution Merchant Chapter 23, Willpower Runes. The black-winged wind falcon wasn't considered fast among the bronze avian fays. However, it had a very flat back, and the feathers on its back were very thick. Therefore, the black-winged wind falcon was rather popular among the bronze avian fays. This trip's travel fee was nearly half of the store's normal revenue, 2,000 Federation dollars. If Lin Yuan weren't in a hurry, he wouldn't be willing to spend like this. FREWebnovel.com. Young lad, if you are used to the feeling of flying in the sky, I will let the black-winged wind falcon fly a little higher. When at the altitude of the clouds, the air current is relatively calm, and the speed can be faster. The black-winged wind falcon's pilot knew that Lin Yuan was riding an avian fay for the first time and was nice enough not to let the black-winged wind falcon travel in the high altitudes immediately. The air in the high altitudes was thinner. Thus, those who had never ridden on avian fays before might suffer a temporary lack of oxygen due to the sudden change of altitude and faint. Lin Yuan nodded and said, All right then, I am ready. Lin Yuan's expression turned pale as he spoke. When looking at the ground, which was dozens of meters away, and the blurry figures of people in the street at night, Lin Yuan felt a little acrophobic. Fortunately, the acrophobic feeling wasn't too intense, and he was able to endure it. The pilot gave the command for the black-winged wind falcon to ascend toward the clouds. When ascending, the black-winged wind falcon erected the feathers on its back to help Lin Yuan block off the oncoming air currents. Soon enough, the black-winged wind falcon reached the level of the clouds and stabilized its flight. The air above the clouds was indeed thinner, but it wasn't scorching hot. When Lin Yuan inhaled the refreshing cold wind, he felt a sense of urgency due to the lack of oxygen that made his lungs tingle. Lin Yuan circulated his spirit qi, and the sense of urgency quickly vanished. He looked around the surroundings and noticed bundles of clouds nearby that felt like they could be touched. Lin Yuan reached out. It was unknown whether it was due to grabbing the clouds or feeling unsatisfied in the clouds, but Lin Yuan actually looked down and was surprised. When riding in the clouds, the acrophobic feeling vanished and was replaced by extreme spaciousness and clarity. The rivers looked like jade belts, while the mountains were vast and towering. At the places where the mountains intersected, they looked just like the land's spine. They had been like this since the beginning of time and were like the land's eternal veins and arteries. At that moment, Lin Yuan could see a damaged mountain range from afar. A few months back, 2 gold beasts had caused this scale of destruction. The flames from the gold fire-type Fey had incinerated the plants on the mountain. After being scorched by the flames, this should be a barren mountain. However, after months of rain, there was now a thin layer of greenery. Lin Yuan suddenly felt a surge of enlightenment in his heart. Below the Green Mountain is Mother Earth. Mother Earth bestowed vitality to the Green Mountain, while the Green Mountain returned the favor by providing lustrous greenery. The Green Mountain is the manifestation of Mother Earth's vitality, and it's a type of vitality that even surging flames couldn't eliminate. Lin Yuan looked down at the Green Mountain and felt it was particularly clear in his eyes. It felt as though the Green Mountain's willpower was like the chilling cold air in the high altitudes and was easily absorbed into Lin Yuan's lungs. In the depths of Lin Yuan's mind, there was a sudden surge in spiritual energy, and a verdant mountain was erected in the spiritual world. When Lin Yuan's weak spiritual energy was fused into the mountain instantly transformed into a green rune. The rune was filled with the veins of mountains and immense vitality. As the rune danced around Lin Yuan's spiritual energy, it felt as though it was nourishing Lin Yuan's spiritual energy. Lin Yuan felt his mind in a state of clarity. When looking back at the Green Mountain range, it was another scenery. Due to this clear and sudden understanding of the mountains, Lin Yuan nearly bit off his tongue. This. I just comprehended a kind of mountain willpower. Furthermore, the mountain willpower already formed a rune. If some of the experts learned of Lin Yuan's situation, they would probably be seething with anger. In order to produce a fantasy breed, a bronze phase quality would need to have reached legend. Afterward, the contractor would need to comprehend a willpower rune and fuse it with the bronze/legend Fae. From there, the Fae would comprehend the spiritual willpower, and a transformation would happen, turning the Fae into a fantasy breed. Although a legend quality Fae was extremely hard to find, with the aid of a creation master and dedication and nurturing, there was a possibility. However, a willpower rune from the mountains, rivers, oceans, and skies could only be observed and comprehended by the spirit chi professionals. Plenty of spirit chi professionals were stuck without the willpower runes. Even if they possessed legend quality Faes, they wouldn't be able to evolve them into the fantasy breed. This was the first time Lin Yuan was riding an avian Fae and looking down at the mountains and vast land, yet he actually comprehended a type of willpower rune from the mountains. Lin Yuan was truly amazed. When a person was unlucky, they might have stuffed teeth when drinking cool water. Or when they poured a glass of water, the pot might break off from the handle and smash on their feet. But when a person was lucky, they would be able to get the grand prize by opening a single bottle. Ever since I started feeling the spirit chi's presence, my great luck has been constantly around. Evolving phase quality to legend is just a matter of time for me. Now that I comprehended a willpower rune, I will be able to obtain a fantasy breed. However, the willpower rune's attribute must be complementing the Fae in order for it to be effective. If one comprehended a willpower rune from the land, they could still use it on an aquatic Fae to evolve it into a fantasy breed. When evolving into the fantasy breed, the second exclusive skill would be related to the land due to the willpower rune's attribute. It would be useless for the Fae. It wouldn't just be wasting a willpower rune, but it would also be wasting the legend quality Fae's talent. Therefore, Lin Yuan would need to consider the first Fae that he was going to use Morbius Spirit Lock skill on, as he would need to complement it with the willpower rune comprehended from the mountain. Time passed quickly, and just as Lin Yuan returned to his senses from his spiritual world, the black-winged wind falcon was already preparing to land in the light-illuminated city. The city that they were landing at was none other than Redbud City's main city. The black-winged wind falcon was going to land directly at the entrance of the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy. Lin Yuan carried the spirit storage box containing the sharp iron horn bull and alighted the black-winged wind falcon. He then immediately made a call to Chu Xiai. Lin Yuan had a very special aura, just like the grass after the rain, which was particularly clean. Now that Lin Yuan's body had recovered, his originally good looks were no longer as pale. He was rosy and filled with energy. As such, many of the female students that were returning to the academy after their meals and walks were looking at Lin Yuan. At that moment, Lin Yuan's phone call connected. When Lin Yuan made the call, he was rather angry when thinking of how Chu Xiai had wanted to contract a gray beetle without telling him. However, when he heard Chu Xiai immediately apologizing and talking hesitantly, Lin Yuan's anger was immediately dismissed. His mouth revealed a happy, helpless, and also pampering smile. "Where are you now?" "I am at your academy's entrance." While he was speaking, Lin Yuan heard a familiar voice from the other end of the phone. The voice belonged to the irascible teacher, Bao. "Chu Xiai, your teacher is only so capable. Just take this elite, yellow-spotted hound. Otherwise, if you don't have a Fae when you register tomorrow, you will immediately fail in your live combat class." Fae Evolution Merchant Chapter 23, Willpower Runes. The black-winged wind falcon wasn't considered fast among the bronze avian Faes. However, it had a very flat back, and the feathers on its back were very thick. Therefore, the black-winged wind falcon was rather popular among the bronze avian Faes. This trip's travel fee was nearly half of the store's normal revenue, 2,000 Federation dollars. If Lin Yuan weren't in a hurry, he wouldn't be willing to spend like this. FREWebnovel.com. Young lad, if you are used to the feeling of flying in the sky, I will let the black-winged wind falcon fly a little higher. When at the altitude of the clouds, the air current is relatively calm, and the speed can be faster. The black-winged wind falcon's pilot knew that Lin Yuan was riding an avian Fae for the first time and was nice enough not to let the black-winged wind falcon travel in the high altitudes immediately. The air in the high altitudes was thinner. Thus, those who had never ridden on avian Faes before might suffer a temporary lack of oxygen due to the sudden change of altitude and faint. Lin Yuan nodded and said, "All right then, I am ready." Lin Yuan's expression turned pale as he spoke. When looking at the ground, which was dozens of meters away, and the blurry figures of people in the street at night, Lin Yuan felt a little acrophobic. Fortunately, the acrophobic feeling wasn't too intense, and he was able to endure it. The pilot gave the command for the black-winged wind falcon to ascend toward the clouds. When ascending, the black-winged wind falcon erected the feathers on its back to help Lin Yuan block off the oncoming air currents. Soon enough, the black-winged wind falcon reached the level of the clouds and stabilized its flight. The air above the clouds was indeed thinner, but it wasn't scorching hot. When Lin Yuan inhaled the refreshing cold wind, he felt a sense of urgency due to the lack of oxygen that made his lungs tingle. Lin Yuan circulated his spirit qi, and the sense of urgency quickly vanished. He looked around the surroundings and noticed bundles of clouds nearby that felt like they could be touched. Lin Yuan reached out. It was unknown whether it was due to grabbing the clouds or feeling unsatisfied in the clouds, but Lin Yuan actually looked down and was surprised. When riding in the clouds, the acrophobic feeling vanished and was replaced by extreme spaciousness and clarity. The rivers looked like jade belts, while the mountains were vast and towering. At the places where the mountains intersected, they looked just like the land's spine. They had been like this since the beginning of time and were like the land's eternal veins and arteries. At that moment, Lin Yuan could see a damaged mountain range from afar. A few months back, 2 gold beasts had caused this scale of destruction. The flames from the gold fire-type Fae had incinerated the plants on the mountain. After being scorched by the flames, this should be a barren mountain. However, after months of rain, there was now a thin layer of greenery. Lin Yuan suddenly felt a surge of enlightenment in his heart. Below the Green Mountain is Mother Earth. Mother Earth bestowed vitality to the Green Mountain, while the Green Mountain returned the favor by providing lustrous greenery. The Green Mountain is the manifestation of Mother Earth's vitality, and it's a type of vitality that even surging flames couldn't eliminate. Lin Yuan looked down at the Green Mountain and felt it was particularly clear in his eyes. It felt as though the Green Mountain's willpower was like the chilling cold air in the high altitudes and was easily absorbed into Lin Yuan's lungs. In the depths of Lin Yuan's mind, there was a sudden surge in spiritual energy, and a verdant mountain was erected in the spiritual world. When Lin Yuan's weak spiritual energy was fused into the mountain instantly transformed into a green rune. The rune was filled with the veins of mountains and immense vitality. As the rune danced around Lin Yuan's spiritual energy, it felt as though it was nourishing Lin Yuan's spiritual energy. Lin Yuan felt his mind in a state of clarity. When looking back at the Green Mountain range, it was another scenery. Due to this clear and sudden understanding of the mountains, Lin Yuan nearly bit off his tongue. This. I just comprehended a kind of mountain willpower. Furthermore, the mountain willpower already formed a rune. If some of the experts learned of Lin Yuan's situation, they would probably be seething with anger. In order to produce a fantasy breed, a bronze phase quality would need to have reached legend. Afterward, the contractor would need to comprehend a willpower rune and fuse it with the bronze/legend Fae. From there, the Fae would comprehend the spiritual willpower, and a transformation would happen, turning the Fae into a fantasy breed. Although a legend quality Fae was extremely hard to find, with the aid of a creation master and dedication in nurturing, there was a possibility. However, a willpower rune from the mountains, rivers, oceans, and skies could only be observed and comprehended by the spirit chi professionals. Plenty of spirit chi professionals were stuck without the willpower runes. Even if they possessed legend quality Faes, they wouldn't be able to evolve them into the fantasy breed. This was the first time Lin Yuan was riding an avian Fae and looking down at the mountains and vast land, yet he actually comprehended a type of willpower rune from the mountains. Lin Yuan was truly amazed. When a person was unlucky, they might have stuffed teeth when drinking cool water. Or when they poured a glass of water, the pot might break off from the handle and smash on their feet. But when a person was lucky, they would be able to get the grand prize by opening a single bottle. Ever since I started feeling the spirit chi's presence, my great luck has been constantly around. Evolving phase quality to legend is just a matter of time for me. Now that I comprehended a willpower rune, I will be able to obtain a fantasy breed. However, the willpower rune's attribute must be complementing the Fae in order for it to be effective. If one comprehended a willpower rune from the land, they could still use it on an aquatic Fae to evolve it into a fantasy breed. When evolving into the fantasy breed, the second exclusive skill would be related to the land due to the willpower rune's attribute. It would be useless for the Fae. It wouldn't just be wasting a willpower rune, but it would also be wasting the legend quality Fae's talent. Therefore, Lin Yuan would need to consider the first Fae that he was going to use Morbius Spirit Lock skill on, as he would need to complement it with the willpower rune comprehended from the mountain. Time passed quickly, And just as Lin Yuan returned to his senses from his spiritual world, the black-winged wind falcon was already preparing to land in the light-illuminated city. The city that they were landing at was none other than Redbud City's main city. The black-winged wind falcon was going to land directly at the entrance of the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy. Lin Yuan carried the spirit storage box containing the sharp iron horn bull and alighted the black-winged wind falcon. He then immediately made a call to Chu Xi. Lin Yuan had a very special aura, just like the grass after the rain, which was particularly clean. Now that Lin Yuan's body had recovered, his originally good looks were no longer as pale. He was rosy and filled with energy. As such, many of the female students that were returning to the academy after their meals and walks were looking at Lin Yuan. At that moment, Lin Yuan's phone call connected. When Lin Yuan made the call, he was rather angry when thinking of how Chu Xi had wanted to contract a gray beetle without telling him. However, when he heard Chu Xi immediately apologizing and talking hesitantly, Lin Yuan's anger was immediately dismissed. His mouth revealed a happy, helpless, and also pampering smile. "Where are you now?" "I am at your academy's entrance." While he was speaking, Lin Yuan heard a familiar voice from the other end of the phone. The voice belonged to the irascible teacher, Bao. "Chu Xi, your teacher is only so capable. Just take this elite, yellow-spotted hound. Otherwise, if you don't have a Fei when you register tomorrow, you will immediately fail in your live combat class." Chapter 25, Qualification for Radiance 100. The more Teacher Bao observed the spirit storage box, the more increasingly strange it felt. All of a sudden, his irises contracted as he recognized the marking at the side of the spirit storage box. It's a bronze-grade spirit storage box. Originally, Teacher Bao had wanted to mention the yellow-spotted hound, but he held back. Although he didn't know if the spirit storage box contained a bronze Fei, he believed it was definitely better than the yellow-spotted hound. After all, the amount needed to purchase a single Ostrich Logistics bronze-grade spirit storage box was enough to buy 3 yellow-spotted hounds. As they walked inside the campus, Lin Yuan suddenly felt relaxed after seeing all the young and vibrant smiling faces. At the same time, Lin Yuan felt very glad that he had chosen to support Chu Xi to attend school instead of managing the Fei store with him. Once they entered Teacher Bao's office, Lin Yuan saw a cage that contained a healthy, yellow-spotted hound. Evidently, Teacher Bao was planning to give it to Chu Xi. Lin Yuan didn't know how to thank Teacher Bao. Although he might have enough money in his Star Web account to purchase dozens of yellow-spotted hounds, kindness couldn't be measured by money, especially the kind that didn't seek repayment. Teacher Bao sat in the office chair and said to Lin Yuan, "I didn't expect you to actually prepare such a good Fei after telling you to do so." Teacher Bao looked at Lin Yuan and lamented. "If this bronze-grade spirit storage box really contains a bronze Fei, even if it is a regular bronze defense-type Fei, it isn't something that I can obtain. I wonder how a youth like him was able to obtain something this great." Teacher Bao found the thought of Chu Xi wasting her talent unbearable previously, but he was feeling heartbroken for Lin Yuan now. Teacher Bao's words left Chu Xi rather confused. She, who had been holding the spirit storage box, didn't know what was inside, so how could Teacher Bao know? Lin Yuan noticed Chu Xi's confused expression and said, "Chu Xi, bring out your first Fei and form a contract, freewaybnovel.com." Chu Xi dismissed her doubts and placed her hand on the spirit storage box's lock. After injecting her spirit chi and opening the spirit storage box, a majestic ink-colored iron bull appeared. Its head was equipped with abnormally sharp horns. Chu Xi involuntarily let out a gasp. Teacher Bao also dropped the pen he was holding and exclaimed, "It is actually a bronze sharp iron horn bull." Furthermore, this sharp iron horn bull's appearance seems to be distinctively in the ancestry line. The nose horn at the front is actually so long. The quality of this sharp iron horn bull is definitely top-notch among the bronze defense-type Feis. Take a look at the nose horn. It is a great ingredient that can be used to promote a Fei's quality. Just this horn alone is worth 700,000 Federation dollars. Once Teacher Bao stopped talking, the sharp iron horn bull let out a moo and knocked its hind hooves against the ground. Lin Yuan looked at Teacher Bao with an incredulous expression. A bronze Fei's spirituality allowed it to sense what the humans surrounding it were thinking. Teacher Bao's reaction after seeing the sharp iron horn bull was to put a price on its nose horn. It truly agitated the bull. Teacher Bao picked up the dropped pen and laughed in embarrassment. "It's my old habit. It is a spiritual ingredient analyst's occupational habit." Haha. Chu Xi was staring blankly at the sharp iron horn bull, while tears were flowing her cheeks. Lin Yuan stepped forward to wipe off Chu Xi's tears and asked, "What are you crying for?" Lin Yuan was a rather reserved person and didn't know how to express his emotions or console others. Chu Xi looked at Lin Yuan and asked, Lin Yuan, did you sell our store? Chu Xi might not know the sharp iron horn bowl's value, but based on Teacher Bao's reaction and the Fei's appearance, she could tell it was not cheap. Teacher Bao left his office and closed the door for Lin Yuan and Chu Xi. Lin Yuan rubbed Chu Xi's head and said, hurry up and form a contract with it. Teacher Bao still has to report it later. Do not increase Teacher Bao's workload. When we go out for dinner later, we will talk more. Lin Yuan circulated his spirit qi while talking. Chu Xi exclaimed in joy, Lin Yuan, you can feel spirit qi. Then your body. Lin Yuan put on a warm smile. I am fine now. Chu Xi's tears were quietly flowing down earlier, but now, she couldn't help it and started to wail. She was crying and laughing at the same time. Upon seeing the panicked Lin Yuan, Chu Xi said, let me cry for a moment. These are tears of joy. Chu Xi cried for 5 minutes. During these 5 minutes, the tears were the saltiest, but Chu Xi was enjoying the happiest 5 minutes. After forming the contract with the sharp iron horn bull, Chu Xi stored it inside her spiritual storage box. When Teacher Bao noticed that the commotion was over, he opened the door and just happened to see the scene of Chu Xi forming the contract. He said in an emotional tone, Chu Xi's talent is already top-notch. Now that she is starting with a superior bronze sharp iron horn bull, Chu Xi might have the chance to participate in the Redbud 100 selection during the year-end. When Teacher Bao mentioned the Redbud 100, Lin Yuan couldn't help but ask, aren't only third-year students eligible to participate in the Redbud 100? Chu Xi is only a first year. Teacher Bao looked at Chu Xi with limitless expectations and said, the Redbud 100 selection involves picking out 100 young individuals from Redbud City and giving them the qualification to participate in the Radiance 100. In order to qualify for 80 of those spots, one has to go through actual combat. As for the remaining 20 spots, they are for seeded participants. As for the criteria, it's their potential and talents. Chu Xi is entirely capable of striving for those 20 spots. If Chu Xi succeeds, she will obtain the education resources Redbud City sponsors to our Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy. She would then be able to develop even better. However, all this is still depending on Chu Xi's hard work. Chu Xi nodded with determination. She was naturally going to do her best and strive for it. Otherwise, she would be letting down Lin Yuan's contribution. Lin Yuan didn't really care about the sponsorship of resources. With him around, every time Chu Xi returned home during the holidays, he would be able to improve her contracted fei. Furthermore, he would nurture all of Chu Xi's future contracted feis, so she wouldn't need to rely on others for resources. Lin Yuan was more concerned about the academy's atmosphere and environment. To be competing against similar-aged individuals in this place was actually a type of growth. Such growth might be displayed with one's strength, but it was more a growth in spirit. Lin Yuan wanted to bring Chu Xi out for a meal, so she requested to take a break. Teacher Bao immediately approved Chu Xi's request. Fei Evolution Merchant Chapter 26, You Shall Be the One. Lin Yuan and Chu Xi left the Redbud Intermediate Spirit Chi Academy, and they spoke about his situation in detail while walking. My body is fine now, and the store is also doing well. I am preparing to participate in the Creation Master exam soon. Lin Yuan summarized the situation and his plans. He didn't wish to hide his participation in the Creation Master exam from Chu Xi. Creation Masters were akin to celebrities of the pre-Spirit Chi Awakening era. They would be introduced on the star web, so it was impossible to conceal it. He might as well tell Chu Xi and let her have peace of mind. Chu Xi looked at Lin Yuan and felt that he had changed significantly. Of course, the changes had to do with his physical appearance, as Lin Yuan's heart was still the same. Lin Yuan might have said that things were relatively good recently, but Chu Xi knew that he would always mention the good news and not the bad news. Therefore, she was still a little worried. Lin Yuan, that sharp iron horn bull must be very expensive, right? Lin Yuan laughed mischievously and took out his star web card while speaking. I now have the talent of a creation master and have earned some money. We have money now. Later on, I will transfer 100,000 Federation dollars to your star web card. If you need any resources in school, just buy them. The sharp iron horn bull needs a large number of energy ores. We will purchase those strong and tough metals too. When Lin Yuan was speaking, he was genuinely happy. It wasn't because they were rich now. He could finally provide a great cultivating environment for Chu Xi. The feeling was truly carefree. F. Riwei, B. Novel. Chu Xi nodded obediently and didn't object. From the tender age of 6, when Lin Yuan was 8 years old, he had been supporting her and their store. They were each other's closest family members in this world. Chu Xi always had a certain reliance on Lin Yuan, and it was a feeling that originated from their bloodline and kinship. At that moment, a stall owner in the street called out loudly, "Chinese cornbread. 4 for $1 Federation dollar. Come here, come now." When Chu Xi heard the stall owner's sales pitch, she laughed and said to her brother, "Lin Yuan, I want to eat Chinese cornbread." Lin Yuan looked at the stall and said, "Haven't you always wanted to eat hot pot? If you eat Chinese cornbread now, your stomach won't digest fast enough for you to finish your hot pot." Chu Xi took a look at the cornbread and let out a sweet smile. "I want both cornbread and hot pot." Lin Yuan went to purchase cornbread helplessly. Chu Xi looked at his back and felt as though time had suddenly returned to several years ago. Back then, she had been severely ill, and her condition had been getting worse. Lin Yuan had gone to look for a healer to treat her, but the treatment had cost too much. As a result, the two of them had to eat cornbread for half a month. Back then, whenever they ate cornbread, they would feel it was coarse, hard to swallow, and very plain. Now that everything was better, Chu Xi couldn't help but think of their past when seeing the cornbread. "What are you thinking? Here is your cornbread, but don't eat too much. Otherwise, when we are eating hot pot, you can only watch me eat." "Big brother, I know already." Chu Xi chewed on the cornbread. Although its taste was still the same as she remembered, Chu Xi could feel a hint of sweetness. It was unknown if they had added some sugar in the cornbread or if the cornbread actually had a unique taste in her heart. After eating the hot pot, Lin Yuan sent Chu Xi back to the academy. There was always reluctance when parting, but their lives would continue getting better. Lin Yuan didn't ride on an Aviant Fei to return home. Instead, he had chosen to ride a thick-hoofed donkey car. Lin Yuan wasn't trying to save money, but he wished to see the mountain from the ground this time. At the same time, he was going to make a plan for his future. Lin Yuan no longer planned to open the Fei store at home. It wasn't because he didn't wish to operate it, but he was planning to open a store on the Star Web. If he wanted to sell Feis, he could just sell them on the Star Web. He would arrange for Genius to memorize the primary books related to the Scholar, Fei Observer, and Spiritual Ingredient Analyst occupations after his return. He would then directly participate in the Creation Master exam. Once he passed the Creation Master exam, he could authenticate himself on the Star Web and receive jobs for custom-made Feis. Spirit Chi professionals would ultimately have to strengthen themselves in order to progress. Lin Yuan was also considered a Spirit Chi professional now. Therefore, after becoming a Creation Master, apart from increasing his Spirit Chi by evolving Feis, he would only accept jobs like custom-made orders. Under normal circumstances, he would need to continue increasing his Feis grade. Now that he had a willpower rune, he wondered if he could increase a bronze Feis quality to legend and nurture a bronze fantasy breed. When a Fei transformed into a fantasy breed at a lower grade, it meant that the Fei had greater potential. It was daybreak, and soon the morning sun's redness soaked the entire mountain range. At the same time, the thick-hoofed donkey car delivered Lin Yuan back to the Xiao region. Lin Yuan had a breezy journey. He didn't walk back home immediately and instead headed to the Fei marketplace to purchase 150 pots of usnias that weren't even normal grade. He then asked the stall owner to deliver them to his store. After making this bulk purchase of usnias, Lin Yuan didn't plan to purchase any more Feis from the marketplace. He was planning to purchase Feis from the Star Web. Although the prices of Feis were slightly higher on the Star Web due to the transportation fees, it had the advantage of being safe. Before Lin Yuan became a Creation Master, he didn't wish to expose his Fei evolving ability. After evolving all these 150 pots of normal usnias to Elite, Lin Yuan reckoned that his Spirit Chi would reach a D-rank Spirit Chi professional standard. By then, he would be a true Spirit Chi professional that had a rank. Lin Yuan was already at the entrance of his store, but he suddenly had a thought. Morbius Spirit Lock exclusive skill is due to my compatibility with Healing type, Support type, and Plant type. Therefore, I can only use the Spirit Lock on those types of Feis. I had already decided to form a contract with a Healing type Fei a long time ago. The Spirit Lock exclusive skill only allows the use of the Fei's basic ability, it's also the ability that will be obtained by the Fei at normal grade. There was an awkward matter about Healing type Fei's normal grade ability. Most of them didn't possess healing abilities, just like the clear pond carp that Lin Yuan had encountered previously. It might be a Healing type Fei, but its basic ability was to use the fins to deal physical damage. Thus, such Feis were unsuitable for Spirit Lock. As for the basic abilities that could heal, the most clear-cut ability would be Jasmine Lily's heal. Lin Yuan immediately decided that the first Fae to use Morbius Spirit Lock on was simply going to be Jasmine Lily. Therefore, Lin Yuan returned to the Fae marketplace, and purposely picked a normal normal Jasmine Lily. He was preparing to use Spirit Lock on this pot of Jasmine Lily after going home. When Lin Yuan returned home, Genius and Chimey immediately pounced at him. Lin Yuan seldom went outdoors in the past because of his body condition. Hence, it was rare for him to leave Genius and Chimey. Lin Yuan had been out for an entire night, so Genius and Chimey were especially clingy toward him now. Their reliance and caring feelings made Lin Yuan feel warm. Fae Evolution Merchant Chapter 27, Morbius Evolution. Soon, the stall owner from before carried a cart of usnias into Lin Yuan's store. Lin Yuan's store was nearly filled with the 150 pots of usnias. As such, Lin Yuan immediately evolved one pot of usnia into normal grade and subsequently into elite grade. He put it high on the rack and said to Chimey, in the future, that pot of elite usnia will be your food. When you reach the grade of elite, I will prepare a bronze usnia for you. Chimey flew happily to its usnia and started singing a song. A delicacy like the elite usnia was something that Chimey had a chance to eat during the past 2 days. Of course, Chimey was the most delighted because this pot of elite usnia was something that Lin Yuan had specially prepared for it. A freeway novel. Lin Yuan took another bowl and placed some energy biscuits inside. These energy biscuits were meant for omnivorous phase, and they contained low-grade spiritual ingredients that were rich with nutrients. In other words, they weren't cheap. Naturally, Lin Yuan couldn't afford them in the past, but things were different now. As such, Lin Yuan changed Genius' diet too. Genius lowered its head and smelled the energy biscuits in the bowl. Its eyes lit up, and it started to chew on the energy biscuits with its small teeth in a very carefree manner. After preparing the food for Genius and Chimey, Lin Yuan went upstairs to shower. Subsequently, he was preparing to use Spirit Lock on the Jasmine Lily. Afterward, he would also be considered a combat class Spirit Chi professional and a rare healer. Healers were very respected among the combat class Spirit Chi occupations, and it wasn't because they were rare. Healers might be considered a combat class occupation, but they were mainly important for their healing abilities and didn't have outstanding combat capabilities. As a combat class professional, healers would also need to form teams with other combat class professionals. They would need to fight in Star Web tournaments or receive guild missions. All those places required them to be in danger. Healers weren't able to protect themselves, so they had to rely on their teammates. The teammates would ensure the safety of healing-type Spirit Chi professionals, while the latter would nurture the entire team back to health. This was the main reason why healers were respected. Of course, Lin Yuan didn't need to worry. His compatibility direction wasn't just to the healing type but also toward the support type. The definition of a support type was rather vague. When support-type Spirit Chi professionals contracted some specific support-type phase, they would provide control-type abilities or weaken-type abilities. These abilities' damage value was already negligible, but everything had its advantages and disadvantages. Support-type Spirit Chi professionals that specialized in amplifications were more popular among the combat class Spirit Chi professionals. As Morbius grade increased, Lin Yuan would be able to use Spirit Lock on more phase. Therefore, Lin Yuan would be able to choose the combination of healing and support abilities. They might be basic abilities, but as the phase evolved, their basic abilities would also be continuously enhanced, strengthening their effects. When the Spirit-locked phase reached bronze grade and obtained their exclusive skill, it would also enhance the basic abilities. In addition, Lin Yuan didn't think that basic abilities would be inferior. Since he had the ability to evolve phase, before they reached bronze grade they would surely reach epic quality. He was only able to use the Spirit-locked phase basic abilities, so he didn't need to consider too much about the characteristics. He simply needed to choose based on the advantages of the basic abilities. Lin Yuan would only need to choose the future Spirit-locked phase based on their types to have a better ability combination. This was something that the other healing type and support type Spirit Chi professionals couldn't compare with him. Lin Yuan believed that he would definitely become an outstanding healing type and support type Spirit Chi professional. Lin Yuan looked at the frail normal Jasmine Lily in his hand. He gently rubbed the Jasmine Lily's leaf while thinking that this was going to be his first Spirit-locked Fae. This is just the beginning. Lin Yuan used his spiritual energy to communicate with Morbius that was on his right wrist and activated the exclusive skill, Spirit Lock. Lin Yuan felt his spiritual energy connecting deeply with Morbius, while the latter released spiritual energy toward Lin Yuan's choice and formed the contract with the Jasmine Lily. Soon, spirit lock was completed. Lin Yuan felt that Morbius released spiritual energy was the spiritual energy he had used to form Morbius contract. As for the spiritual energy that he possessed right now, there wasn't any consumption. This meant that when Morbius used spirit lock, Lin Yuan would only need to use the spiritual energy to communicate with Morbius and wouldn't need to use his own spiritual energy. Lin Yuan always thought that he would need to reserve some spiritual energy to form the contract before using spirit lock. With that step skipped, Lin Yuan felt ecstatic. This means that I can still form a contract with another Fae that only requires a small amount of spiritual energy. It doesn't matter if the Fae isn't even normal grade. After all, I can nurture it like how I nurtured Genius and Chimey. Lin Yuan's mind raced with thoughts again. I am compatible with healing type, support type, and plant type Faes. Jasmine Lily is a healing type and support type Fae, so I can now nurture another plant type and combat type Fae. That way, I will be able to protect myself even if I am in the wilderness. However, all the choices had to go through careful consideration. After Morbius used Spirit Lock successfully, Morbius' attributes changed. Lin Yuan immediately channeled Spirit Chi into the Spirit-locked Jasmine Lily. After over an hour, the normal I/normal Jasmine Lily had reached Elite I/Elite. Presently, the Jasmine Lily's leaves were plump and tender green. The distinct layers of green made a person's mood better just by looking at them. At that moment, Lin Yuan checked on Morbius' attributes. Fae name, Morbius. Fae species? Fae grade, Elite, 1 out of 10. Fae type, spatial/mystery. Fae quality, Elite. Abilities. True data, all complicated information that is invisible to the eye is turned into data. Information that is turned into data might contain truth that cannot be distinguished on the surface. Calm mind, passive ability. Effects of calm mind can be improved according to the Fae's grade. Calm mind can stabilize the mind and has a certain probability of resisting negative conditions. Exclusive skill. Spirit Lock, Morbius Spatial Zone, can be used to nurture Faes. The initial grade of the Fae that Morbius Spatial Zone can nurture must not be higher than Morbius grade. Morbius isn't able to increase its grade by itself, so its grade will be increased along with the Fae's grade that it nurtures. At the same time, Morbius can obtain the initial ability of the Fae that it nurtures. However, Morbius will not obtain abilities when its grade increases. Whenever Morbius increases a grade, it will be able to nurture one more Fae. Morbius' method of growth will remain unchanged. Normal Spirit Lock. Jasmine Lily, Elite, 1 out of 10, Quality, Elite. Ability, Heal, Recover Open Wounds. When the Jasmine Lily evolved in grade, Morbius had also reached Elite I/Elite. In addition, the Elite Morbius Spirit Lock Spatial Zone transformed. Lin Yuan held the Jasmine Lily, entered the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, and noticed that the spatial zone, which was originally 40 square meters, had expanded. It was twice the size, at least 80 square meters now. Chapter 28, Trade completed. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard an unfamiliar and cold, but very amiable voice. Yuan, I am finally able to communicate with you after I became Elite. The voice echoed in Lin Yuan's mind, and he quickly reacted. This voice came from his first contracted Fae, Morbius. F.R.E. Novel. Lin Yuan was overjoyed now that Morbius could converse with him. Faes were always the Spirit Chi professional's closest partners. The previous time Lin Yuan could sense Morbius, the latter was so weak that it could only transmit fuzzy thoughts. Lin Yuan had been thinking of a method to strengthen Morbius' consciousness. He never expected that this problem would suddenly be resolved with Morbius' great advancement. Moby, you were still so weak last time. Have you completely recovered now? A cold voice replied, I can only maintain this state for half an hour a day. Now that I have recovered, I wish to tell you about the function of the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. When Lin Yuan heard that Morbius could only maintain this state for half an hour a day, he was even more determined to quickly evolve the Elite Jasmine Lily to bronze. By then, Morbius' condition would certainly improve. Humans could feel their Fae's thoughts, and it was the same for the Faes. Morbius' originally cold voice carried tinges of warmth now. Yuan, this Spirit Lock Spatial Zone is like a small-scale dimensional zone. You can modify the spatial zone as you wish and store Faes. It is just like a secret base. Lin Yuan continued the conversation with Morbius. After Morbius explained the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone's function, they started to have a casual conversation. Morbius had transmigrated to this world along with Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan had been born, Morbius already existed. they were just like twin brothers. Lin Yuan and Morbius started to talk about anything they could, and just as they were enjoying the conversation, the time limit ran up. Morbius fell into a state where it could only transmit simple thoughts. When I evolve over 150 pots of these Esnias into elite grade, I will become a D-rank Spirit Chi professional and be able to channel Spirit Chi faster. By then, I will have the capability to evolve elite phase into bronze ones. Lin Yuan didn't exit from the Spirit Lock spatial zone, and instead, he placed the Jasmine Lily by the poolside in the spatial zone. Immediately after, he dug out a piece of inferior energy ore from the Jasmine Lily's pot and threw it into the pool. Lin Yuan realized that the inferior energy ore quickly vanished into the pool, and its Spirit Chi fused into the pool. The limpid pool gradually emitted the Spirit Chi into the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Originally, the Spirit Lock spatial zone didn't have any Spirit Chi and wasn't suitable to store Fei within. However, if Lin Yuan was able to obtain a huge batch of energy ores and tossed them into the pool, it would only be a matter of time before the Spirit Chi within the spatial zone would be many times more concentrated as compared to the outside world. Just by putting the phase into the Spirit Lock spatial zone, the phase would be able to evolve much faster than the outside world. With concentrated Spirit Chi, I wonder how fast my Spirit Chi channeling speed would be as compared to the outside world. Naturally, everything would need to be supported with a massive amount of Federation dollars, because even the lowest grade of energy ores weren't cheap. Lin Yuan previously felt that he had already earned quite a lot of Federation dollars, but it seemed like he would need much more from the looks of it now. On the path of making money, Lin Yuan still had a long road ahead. After exiting the Spirit Lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan started to evolve the Esnias. For the next few days, apart from eating, sleeping, and conversing with Morbius for half an hour a day, Lin Yuan would be evolving to 150 pots of Esnias. On the 7th day, which was the day agreed upon with Yang Ming Kai, Lin Yuan was barely able to evolve 100 pots of Esnias to elite grade. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt that the Spirit Chi storage in his body was going to reach the next rank. After reaching the next rank, Lin Yuan's Spirit Chi would be able to achieve a breakthrough. It would transform his thin and gaseous Spirit Chi into concentrated and misty Spirit Chi. By then, he would become a D-rank Spirit Chi professional. During the 7 days, Yang Ming Kai had been handling the matters to set up the Fei breeding base. Yang Ming Kai had to rent the building for his Fei breeding base. After all, he didn't have enough money to build a Fei breeding base. When renting a Fei breeding base, all of the facilities would be available for use. Presently, Yang Ming Kai was just waiting for Lin Yuan to deliver the 70-plus pots of elite Esnias. After obtaining the elite Esnias, Yang Ming Kai could start to split and breed them. Yang Ming Kai might have kept Lin Yuan's phone number, but he didn't dare to call and pester him. This was a huge order, so a creation master must certainly be behind the scenes. He had already reached an agreement with Lin Yuan, so if he called him halfway, it would show that he didn't trust Lin Yuan. If the task wasn't completed yet, it would also give Lin Yuan pressure. Therefore, on the 7th day, Yang Ming Kai hesitantly visited Lin Yuan's small store and knocked on the door. Lin Yuan opened the door and instantly dazzled Yang Ming Kai with the rows of elite Esnias. All of the elite Esnias were emitting an aura of Federation dollars, and it made Yang Ming Kai gulp down his saliva. Big brother Yang, the elite Esnias are all here. Back then, you said you wanted 76 pots of Esnias. You can just pick 76 pots from the 100 pots here. When Yang Ming Kai entered, he felt that the pots of Esnias were much more than what he had requested. Upon hearing that there were 100 pots, he couldn't hold back and laughed. Young brother, have you found any buyers for your remaining 24 pots? Yang Ming Kai immediately felt that he had said something wrong. How could there be no buyers for elite Esnias? However, Yang Ming Kai was really eager to purchase all 100 pots of Esnias. By then, with over 120 pots of elite Esnias, he could simply nurture more Esnias during the early stages of his breeding base. There was always a lack of supply for Esnias, and he simply had to accumulate them slowly, allowing the snowball to roll bigger. Lin Yuan was planning to list the remaining elite Esnias on the Star Web and set up a Fei store after Yang Ming Kai took the Esnias that he needed. Lin Yuan had already applied to open a Fei store, and it had been approved yesterday. However, there were no goods on Lin Yuan's Star Web store now. Since Yang Ming Kai wanted all 100 pots of elite Esnias, it would save Lin Yuan the trouble of listing them on the Star Web. Big brother Yang, if you want them, I will sell them to you at the price we agreed upon previously. Yang Ming Kai was overjoyed and truly appreciated Lin Yuan. Yang Ming Kai already had a very good impression of Lin Yuan. If Lin Yuan showed some intention of becoming sworn brothers with him, he would immediately pull Lin Yuan and conduct the ceremony to become sworn brothers. Looking at Yang Mingkai's happy expression, Lin Yuan took another glance at the 100 pots of elite Esnias and felt that the creation master occupation was truly great. Chapter 29, Breaking Through to Become a D-Rank Spirit Chi Professional. After carefully securing the 100 Esnia pots on his crowned fire salamander, Yang Mingkai left immediately. In this transaction, Lin Yuan obtained 3.3 Radiance dollars, which was equivalent to 3,300,000 Federation dollars. The money that Lin Yuan had earned previously made him understand that his ability to evolve phase was a money-making method. The 3.3 Radiance dollars made Lin Yuan realize that money was no longer an obstacle for him. What I need to do now isn't to think of how to earn more money, it is how to turn this wealth into my strength. It was fine to evolve low-grade phase, but a huge amount of resources would be required when evolving them to the higher grades. Take the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone for example. If Lin Yuan wanted to modify it, he would need countless resources. Lin Yuan found it necessary to become a hoarder mouse that would accumulate resources frenziedly. He would then be able to experience the joy of a hoarder mouse. After another 2 days, when Lin Yuan had evolved 34 pots of Esnias into elite grade, he suddenly felt the massive amount of gaseous spirit chi in his body being compressed. It was so intensively compressed that it turned into a streak of misty spirit chi. My streak of mist-like spirit chi is extremely concentrated right now. It feels like it will turn into liquid if it is concentrated any further. If the misty spirit chi can turn into liquid spirit chi, then I will be reaching the entrance of a C-rank spirit chi professional. Lin Yuan picked up another pot of elite Esnia. Soon, he realized that after becoming a D-rank spirit chi professional, he didn't even need 10 minutes to evolve a normal Esnia into an elite one. It cut down the time by at least 6 times. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard 2 gentle sounds from his body. He looked down and noticed the 2 sounds were actually coming from Genius and Chimey. During the past few days that he had been evolving the Esnias, Genius and Chimey would always be leaning on him. The normal Genius and Chimey had actually broken through the limits and became elite. Lin Yuan checked on Chimey and Genius data and was rather surprised after reading their elite grade abilities. Fey name, 100 questions beast. Fey species, cat species / intelligent cat species. Fey grade, elite, 1 out of 10, free, W, Ebnov, E, L, Fey type, spiritual. Fey quality, elite. Abilities. Precise memory, when memorizing something, every single detail can be memorized with precision. Knowledge analysis, can conduct a diverse initial analysis of the memory's knowledge. Knowledge analysis allowed Genius memorized knowledge to go through a systematic integration. Genius could then integrate and analyze it with the existing knowledge. This was an ability that really surprised Lin Yuan. Even a high-ranked scholar wouldn't be able to accurately memorize the information on 100 books, let alone conduct overall analysis of the details. This elite-grade ability could allow Genius to become a sage, a walking knowledge database, and a data analysis master. Lin Yuan felt that Genius now truly lived up to the name that he had given to it back then. At that moment, the evolved Genius suddenly said, "Yuan, I can memorize even more things now." While speaking, Genius was jumping around on Lin Yuan's thighs, happily tilting its little head and asking to be praised. Lin Yuan rubbed the fur on Genius' head and asked, "Genius, how much can you memorize now?" Genius' size didn't change after reaching elite grade, but the silverish-gray fur surface was now thicker and had luster. Genius tilted its head and quickly replied, "Yuan, my memory was about 1 energy biscuit previously. Now, it is as many as 5 energy biscuits." After hearing Genius' comparison, Lin Yuan felt a little heartache and rubbed Genius' chin. Genius immediately started purring with enjoyment. The best food that this greedy little cat had eaten before was red braised meat. Thus, it would use red braised meat to make comparisons. Now that the energy biscuits had become the best food it had eaten, Genius changed the quantity comparison from red braised meat to energy biscuits. The increase in Genius memory had truly shocked Lin Yuan. In the beginning, Genius had the memory storage of 3 to 5 books. After reaching normal grade, it had gained a memory storage of 100 books. Now that it reached elite grade, its memory capacity had increased to 500 books. It wasn't even possible for an ordinary person to read 500 books, let alone memorize all 500 books. Previously, when Lin Yuan had asked Genius to study the books, he had needed to make a selection. Currently, he could simply ask Genius to memorize all the primary books on the scholar, Fey observer, and spiritual ingredient analyst occupations. In fact, he could even ask Genius to learn other knowledge in advance. Lin Yuan had already been overjoyed with the 100 questions beast's evolution to normal grade. Now that it broke through and became an elite 100 questions beast, it brought Lin Yuan a pleasant surprise again. Lin Yuan had to admit that the evolved 100 questions beast was more like a perfect housekeeping beast. The dazzled Chimey, which had also evolved, woke up. Fey name, sound bird. Fey species, Corvidi species/Kingfisher species. Fey grade, elite, 2 out of 10. Fey type, sound/G. Fey quality, elite. Abilities. Sound thrust, fire a sharp spike that is formed by sound at a designated target. Turbulence, the flap of the wings emits a consistently fast and random flow of air, current. Just as Chimey was preparing to fly toward Lin Yuan's ear, it extended and wings and noticed its feathers. Chimey immediately chirped with surprise. Perhaps due to its failure to evolve into a songstress bird, Chimey always had a special preference toward the color of blue as all songstress birds had blue feathers. Presently, Chimey's feathers had already transformed from green to blue. However, Chimey's appearance was completely different from a songstress bird. Firstly, Chimey was still the size of half a palm, and its size didn't transform because of its progress in grade. Instead, it got even more delicate and refined. The blue feathers weren't a deep blue color like the songstress birds, it was more like the azure sky blue in the skies of a sunny day. It was an azure blue that would attract anyone's eyes in a single glance. The azure blue feathers on Chimey had faint patterns, and their color was slightly lighter. Lin Yuan wasn't able to see anything at first and merely felt that they were like cloud patterns. One had to look out for markings after a phase evolution. They wouldn't develop a unique trait for no reason and disappear by the next evolution. Therefore, the specialty and function of the cloud pattern would only be clearer after reaching bronze grade. Chapter 30, Dawn. Chimey was now absurdly exquisite. Its appearance should be in the top ranks even among the elite avian fays. Chimey looked at its blue feathers and stared blankly for a long time before it jumped onto Lin Yuan's ear and started singing happily. Chimey's singing voice had also changed. Chimey's singing voice was at the concert hall standard in the past. But now, its singing voice was just like the song of the legendary Thornbirds one. Every change of tune was like a praise toward life, the clear humming of a siren, an ode of the sun and moon in the universe. This was an ability to make use of the singing voice to the extremity. This was perhaps Chimey's unique talent as a sound bird, as it was the only elite sound bird in history. As compared to the singing, Lin Yuan paid more attention to Chimey's type. Chimey wasn't just purely sound type after reaching elite grade, as it had a dual type of sound and chi now. Lin Yuan had been rather worried that Chimey might continue down the sound type path, and it would only make the path narrower. Now that it had evolved into the sound and chi types, it would definitely expand the spaciousness of Chimey's future path. Lin Yuan walked to the entrance and took out the wooden board that was previously used to test Chimey's attack power. He said, "Chimey, use the ability, Turbulence." When Chimey received Lin Yuan's command, it immediately flapped its wings, and a small surge of energy shot out of its small body. It produced a turbulent flow of air that expanded out of Chimey's body. Immediately after, Chimey controlled Turbulence and smashed it at the 1 centimeter thick wooden board. The wooden board let out a buzzing sound as though something sharp was scraping it. The turbulent flow of air was constantly shrinking the size of the wooden board. When it was finally shrunk by a third of the size, the wooden board's edges were already turned into wooden shavings because of turbulence. Chimey's elite grade attack power was far beyond its normal grade attack power. Lin Yuan looked at Chimey with approval and took out a metal board that was used for the racks. He walked into the courtyard and placed the metal board on the ground. "Chimey, use Turbulence again and attack this metal board." It was the same as before, but the metal board was only letting out clunking sounds after getting hit by Turbulence. There wasn't any damage. At that moment, Chimey let out a clear chirp, and a small hole was pierced open in the metal board. Turbulence then found its target and rushed toward that small hole frenziedly. The metal board was quickly ripped apart by Turbulence. By the time Turbulence ended, Lin Yuan looked at the destroyed metal board and gave Chimey a thumbs up. The combination of sound thrust and turbulence was surprisingly good. Sound thrust was just like a hidden weapon that could sneak an attack, while turbulence was mainly for consistent damage and control effects. When Chimey executed turbulence, it would first flow around Chimey's body, which also allowed to be used as a method of defense. It could help Chimey to block attacks that it couldn't dodge in time. After getting praised by Lin Yuan, it flew around the courtyard happily before landing on Genius' head and hopping around. It looked as though it was telling Genius how great it was. Genius and Chimey's evolutions had given Lin Yuan more confidence. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan recalled something and said silently, "Not good." For this entire time, he had totally forgotten about the two web-spraying spiders. The two web-spraying spiders should still be alive, right? Lin Yuan rushed back into the house, opened up the two elite-grade spirit storage boxes, and found them lying there motionlessly. Lin Yuan had the thought to heal a dead horse as though it was still a living horse one. He placed one hand on each of the web-spraying spiders and transferred the spirit chi. A few minutes later, the two web-spraying spiders moved their legs slightly. Lin Yuan was finally relieved to see that they weren't dead. However, if he was another moment late, they might have perished. Lin Yuan wasn't in a hurry to evolve the grade of the two web-spraying spiders. Instead, he cut off a few of the elite Usnea's vines and fed them to the web-spraying spiders. The web-spraying spiders were omnivorous. They might not enjoy eating Usnea vines, but the rich nutrients in them were definitely the best for replenishing the web-spraying spider's stamina. The two web-spraying spiders ate 5 Usnea vines before recovering their strength. When they recovered, Lin Yuan started to evolve them from Elite X/Flawless to Bronze/Normal. Lin Yuan was planning to evolve them to Bronze grade before putting them on the Star Web for sale. He wasn't planning to increase their quality to Epic. Even if they evolved with Epic quality, they would merely be able to choose a better exclusive skill after reaching Bronze grade. However, the time and cost invested wouldn't be proportionate. Normally, a creation master would only push an Elite phase quality to Epic when it was a custom order. After reaching Epic quality, the customer would bring back the Fae and gamble on whether any of the 3 exclusive skills was what they wanted. Even if an Elite phase quality was Epic when they reached Bronze grade, there might not be an incredible exclusive skill among the 3 exclusive skills. As compared to Phase reaching Bronze grade with flawless quality, the chances were merely 3 times better. 2 hours later, the two web-spraying spiders let out terrifying roars before evolving to Bronze grade. They took on an entirely different appearance as compared to before. One of the web-spraying spider's hind legs grew longer, and its abdomen grew bigger. The 2 hind legs that grew longer were also known as the weaving legs. This web-spraying spider's evolution direction was toward spirituality variant. Its size didn't become bigger, but the ability to spray and weave webs became better. The exclusive skill was Adhesive Spider Web. It enhanced the spider web's adhesiveness and gave a better control ability. The other web-spraying spider's size grew by 2 times, and its originally brownish-yellow color had some faint green colors. The evolution direction was obviously toward the ancestry line. This web-spraying spider awakened the exclusive skill, Violent Venom. It gave a strong venom to the body and also the spider webs. It was a rather good exclusive skill, and even though it didn't increase the control power, it increased the poison type's lethality. Lin Yuan nodded with satisfaction as these 2 web-spraying spiders should be able to sell for a good price on the Star Web. The exclusive skills of these 2 web-spraying spiders might not be top-notch, but they were above average. Lin Yuan managed to evolve 2 similar web-spraying spiders to Bronze grade. He finally understood why people would say that the diversification of attributes would increase after reaching Bronze grade. A different evolution direction and a different exclusive skill would create a significant difference between the same phase. Such diversifications during evolutions made Lin Yuan feel that the evolution of phase was a cool process. It felt like the creation and innovation of life. The evolutions of the 2 web-spraying spiders made Lin Yuan experience and understand the significance of life. The sunlight from outside the window came inside the small face door and shone on Lin Yuan's face. It plated Lin Yuan's body with a layer of warm light. The ray of light on Lin Yuan made the 2 newly evolved web-spraying spiders feel that it was the dawn.